All right. Here we are, Saturday morning, bright and early. And I'm already out of coffee. This is not off to a good start. Hey, thanks everyone for showing up. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of people that have already seen my blueprints course. It's on YouTube for free. I can put a link here, but you can also just go to my YouTube and check it out. The point of this stream today was I've been working on a new course, and I wanted to do an announcement and give kind of a sneak peek of what we're working on. So I'll just get right into it, right? So this new course is going to be called Bridging the Gap, and here I'll do this that way you can see a little better. That's probably better, right? So I think a lot of people, when they start learning Unreal Engine, they get in this weird part where they learn blueprints and they start to get a good grasp on it, and then they talk to their friends, or they on the forums, or maybe on a Discord channel, they're like, hey, like, what do I do next? And the natural progression, I think, is for people to say, like, oh, you got to learn C++ first, right? Yeah, or next. Like, so you learned blueprints, you got it, and now you got to go learn C++. And people are like, all right, sounds good. and they maybe buy a Udemy course, or they try to find some YouTube resources to learn C++, and they get completely overwhelmed. And it's not them, it's C++. C++ is a very difficult programming language to grasp, and it's not a beginner-friendly language like Python or C# or some of the other more intuitive languages. I think C++ is quite a heavy lift when you're coming from Blueprints without any professional coding experience. I'm going to lump in JavaScript with some of the easier programming languages as well. But anyway, let's get back to the point. Come on. So I had this idea when I started making YouTube content that I would finish my Blueprints course and then I would start a Unity course, because I think Unity is a little bit easier to learn than C++. I think this is why a lot of indie developers prefer to use Unity. With the recent events that have been going on with Unity, I think a lot more people are kind of shying away from that game engine. And there are, there's things like Godot that you could learn instead. And, I think that Godot is a great game engine as well, if you wanted to go that route. But, you've already invested all this time into Unreal Engine. So, I think learning the C++ side of things is also a good investment of your time. So essentially what this course is going to do is it's going to attempt to bridge that gap between Blueprints and C++, where a lot of people get disenfranchised with Unreal Engine, or maybe just discouraged or frustrated, or think like, oh man, I can't do this. This is not for me. And maybe they either just stick to Blueprints and decide to do it as a hobbyist, or they just give up game development altogether. So we don't want that. We want awesome game developers that are going to continue to, learn and grow. So here's the course. So it's going to be a 4-week course. I'm going to put it on YouTube. It's going to be free. Again, I love making free content. This is a really awesome way for me to give back to the community in a way that, there's been so many people along my way that have helped me and get to where I am. So 4-week course. Similar format to the way we did the Blueprint course. So every week we're going to start off really, really basic. We're going to give an introduction, and every week we're just going to kind of build onto that. So week 1 we'll just do an intro. In week 1 we're going to create a game that's an endless runner that I'm going to be working on a little bit today. So this is going to start as a Blueprints project. It's going to be a mostly functional Blueprints project. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break down some of those Blueprints functions, and we're going to make them into C++ functions. I think this is a really good way to grasp it, because you're taking the knowledge you already have in Blueprints and you're applying it to C++, instead of trying to learn C++ and then figure out like, well, what would this be in Blueprints? Or like, how does this correlate to Blueprints, or how do they support each other? So the idea is that you would start, I feel weird just like talking to myself, so I'm gonna put this. Yeah, that way you guys can see me at least. Man, I'm like the most professional streamer ever, right? So we're gonna start with a Blueprints course that I'm gonna make for you, and I'll be working on that in the stream today, answering questions if anyone has them. And then we're going to take some of that Blueprint functionality and we're going to break it down to C++. So that's gonna be week 1. Now, you may say like, hey man, I don't want to make an endless runner. That's fine. You could just follow on with the course. Like, because it's going to be all on GitHub, you're going to be able to look at my repository. You can follow along. You don't have to make the project. You could just do the lessons in week 1. Try to start to grasp those C++ functionalities. Week 2, we're going to start. And so for the rest of the course, weeks 2, 3, and 4, we're going to be making an action RPG. I'm trying to think of games that are like this, like Fable. Back in my day, Fable was a big one. You have RPG elements, you have, like player progression, loot, things like that. Things that are going to incentivize the player to keep, playing and kind of like build on that progression of a character. So we're going to create a project using C++. So we're going to start with C++ this time instead of taking a Blueprints project and making it C++. So this can create some challenges for people. Honestly, I think this alone is where some people just get discouraged and they're just like, yeah, I can't even make this work. So we're going to walk through how to do that, give you some tips and tricks on making that C++ project from scratch. And then in week 3, I call it the dynamic duo. So we've learned Blueprints and we've learned C++, and they're not in 2 separate buckets that should never communicate. The beauty of Unreal Engine, the most amazing part about it, is that they support each other. They work together. They're a dynamic duo. They're a team. So in week 3, we're going to learn how to use them together, how they can support each other, how you can build your classes in C++, and then build the functionality in Blueprints. And then week 4, we're going to kind of table the project for a little bit. We're going to create an inventory plugin. And this can be used in our game, but it could also be used in any game after that. So any game where you want an inventory system, you could just throw this in there. You have an inventory plugin you could use for any project going forward. Now, I'm gonna say this about inventory in general. It's not one size fits all. Inventories have a variety of ways that they can be set up and configured, and based upon what game you have, you may want to change it. So what we're going to do in week 4 is make like a baseline inventory plugin that you could build upon. But essentially the idea of a plugin is it's got some of that core functionality that you need, so you're not just reprogramming the same thing every time. If you make 10 RPGs, you don't want to start from scratch every single time and make a new inventory plugin. Or a new inventory. So the idea of a plugin is, hey, someone comes along, they want to make an RPG, and they say, hey, who can make the inventory? And you're like, I got it. And you already have this like foundation that you could just throw into the project and work with. So that's the idea of week 4. So I wanted to break it down now. I'm going to caveat the rest of this. Oh, I should probably hide my face again. The rest of these, the next 4. Yeah, hey, thanks for following. Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. C++ is daunting. It is scary. I'm not going to disagree with you. That's the whole point of this course. The whole point of the course is, like, let's make it not so scary, right? Blueprints, like, anyone can do that. I could do blueprints in my sleep, right? And somebody says C++ to me, and I'm automatically like, ooh, I don't know if I can handle this. But I can make it a little bit not scary, a little bit less scary, right? So we're gonna make it like PG-13 instead of R. Like, it's a little scary. It might jump out at you every once in a while, but we're not gonna show any blood. So I'm gonna show kind of like a rough breakdown of how the lessons are gonna be configured for the rest of the course. This could change. I haven't completely finished the course yet. So as I'm building this, some of these lessons might change. So I just wanted to give an idea of like some of the things we're gonna talk about in the course. So this is week 1. We're just gonna go through some of the basics of C++, start to like take out that scary a little bit. Like I said, we're gonna be using a Blueprints project in this week, and we're gonna be converting some of the functionality to C++. And I think this is a really way to make it a little bit less scary, because you're taking something you already have a reference for, and you're applying that knowledge to something that you don't have a reference for. So if you're like really into cars, then might be easier to learn how to build a house if we compare things to cars, right? So yeah, this is honestly something I'm probably going to talk a lot about in the stream today. I think one of the problems that I have with C++ is that it really slows me down. So I've talked in my stream before about how I've done some consulting, I've done some like freelance work in Unreal Engine, and a lot of times what I do is rapid prototypes. So I'm just going to make you a prototype in like 30 or 60 or 90 days, and then you just get this project that is a working prototype of the game that you want. A lot of times I do all the prototyping in Blueprints just to make sure everything works, get it all working. It's a lot faster. I can really quickly make a game. And then once it's working, I'll go back and I'll clean it up and start pushing some stuff over to C++. So I do agree. It definitely changes the workflow for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see an example of that. It's interesting. So week 1, that's what we do. Week 2, we're gonna create that C++ project. A lot of this is gonna be like setting up the foundations for our game. So setting up the character, setting up a basic enemy, defining our game loop. We'll talk a little bit about level streaming. I think in a game like this, it's a lot of times people kind of want a little bit, maybe we won't make like a completely open world game, but there should be the ability to like move around between, you know, areas. And I think we need to use level streaming for that in most cases. I also want to do procedural dungeons. I'm going to do a whole lesson on just creating a procedural dungeon type thing. You know, a lot of games do this where maybe some of the dungeons change around a little bit, so we'll work on that. Week 3, we're going to start building out some systems for our game. So we're going to start in this week again. We're going to learn how they support each other. So we'll go over some guidelines on how to make the classes work together, how you should kind of, it's just a guideline really. This is all just, you know, there's not any like one answer to things. I talk about this a lot as well. As things get more complex, there's more solutions, and there typically isn't one best solution. It's really, you just got to figure out what's best for you. I'm not going to be using gas for this, but as I was writing this, I was thinking, man, I really should be teaching people gas. The unfortunate thing is I don't really know gas that well, but I do have a friend that does. And another thing I'm going to be announcing in this stream today is something else relating to gas. So really, I'm not announcing just this course. I'm kind of announcing something else as well that will be teaching just gas. But yeah, gas, like if you look at this list, like every one of these probably should just use gas. I think a lot of times what we're going to be doing is making gas-like systems without using gas. One of my personal opinions on gas is that gas can do a lot of things, and it can do a lot of things better than probably any of us can program them ourselves. But when we're making kind of a lighter weight game, maybe there's just some things that we're not really going to need. For instance, I know a lot of gas is making sure things that like replicate correctly. If we're just making like a single player game that's just running around and hacking enemies to bits with our giant sword, I don't know, maybe it would be better. But I think one of for this course, let me go back a second, because I think I have a better answer to this. This is an intro to C++ course. So, and when I say intro, it's like, what we're trying to do is we're trying to cut the scary out of C++ for people. If we go straight into gas with this course, I think that would be really overwhelming for people. So my idea would be more that if you complete this course, then you probably could grasp gas a little bit better than if you just tried to jump straight into gas coming from Blueprints with no frame of reference for C++. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. You're saying everything that I agree with. For a small team of indie developers, if you're just making a really lightweight game, I think gas is maybe a little bit maybe just a little bit too much for you. So we're going to be talking about some of these systems, building a player ability system, building a skill tree component, creating an equipment component so we can equip loot. We'll create a ranged weapon and allow the player to swap between ranged and melee weapons. And then we'll talk about modifying stats with equipment. This last one is definitely something that would be easier with gas, but we'll make a system that's pretty stable not using gas. And the funny thing is, it ends up looking a lot like gas in the end. But yeah, I also really wish they didn't call it gas, because I just like have a hard time saying that with a straight face. You can't see my face, but yeah, I'm snickering over here. And then week 4, we're gonna kind of shift gears a little bit. I think inventory is pretty complex in most games. Like if you just said like make an inventory system, if it's pretty simple, then yeah, I could throw one together in a day. But any complexity to an inventory system, and I think that it gets a little bit crazy. So, you know, it's interesting that it's talking about my Discord, but it's not. Anyway, whatever. These bots. I'm still learning how to stream. As you can see, I have 4 people watching, so it's not like I have a huge following. I think one of the cool things about streaming is you can kind of like get better as you go. So any tips, let me know. Like, hey, don't talk to yourself so much because it's annoying. Anyway, let's talk about this inventory system. So we're going to talk about defining the requirements. Very first thing, I've worked, professionally for engineering companies and product development and, research and development, product launch, all of these different things. One of the things that I constantly tell people is before you start working, before you even open Unreal Engine, I think it's really important to define what the requirements of what you're trying to do are. So, yeah, and we're gonna make a whole week about inventory. So we're gonna spend the first lesson just defining the requirements. As I said, inventory can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different games. We're gonna break out what are the requirements of our inventory system, and then essentially we're going to build them one at a time. So we're gonna create a separate project just for our plugin, and that way it's a little bit more modular. We can move it between projects. I don't want to build it in our RPG project because then, one, we have a higher chance of making things tightly coupled if we're not being careful, and 2, I don't want to have to like package it in the project. I would like to have it be able to be packaged separately. So we're going to create a new project for the plugin. We're going to create all the components of the inventory, the widgets, adding and removing loot, equipping loot, creating random loot, so like a Diablo type system. I think everyone calls it that, right? Borderlands type system. I think Diablo was like the first one to kind of do it in a game though, so I don't know. Yeah, I read your question again. I think the reason is because inventory is it's surprisingly more complex than most people think, and it's in most games. Like most games require some type of inventory system nowadays, right? Especially if we're making an RPG, you have to have an inventory. I can't think of one RPG that I've ever played that didn't have some type of inventory. But yeah. We're going to talk about loot organization, so allowing people to move loot around in their inventory. We'll create a system for doing that and keeping track of where loot is in the inventory. That way every time they close it and reopen it, it's going to be the same. We'll create some loot storage, so like a chest that you can go and drop off extra loot that you don't want. And surprisingly, this is quite similar to creating like a vendor that you can buy and sell loot from. So we'll do both of those in the same lesson because they're pretty close in functionality. And then we'll talk about packaging the plugin, so making sure that it's packaged up in a way that could be reused. And then in the course wrap up, in the last lesson of the course, I think what we'll do is spend some time getting that plugin to work with our character and just making sure everything works and testing it all. So yeah, we'll do that as well. All right, I'm almost done talking about this course, and then we'll get into some fun. And anyone that's watching this video later, I have to keep track of where we were, so I know. Anyway, all right, so here's some things that we are going to do in this course. We're going to discuss some C++ core principles using Unreal Engine, so you will learn a little bit about C++. Obviously, it's a C++ course, but really it's going to be in the application for Unreal Engine. So this is not going to be a course where you can go and make your own C++ projects from scratch. That is not the intent of this course. If you want that, I can definitely recommend some better resources for that. but that's not my intention. We're going to learn how to use C++ in Unreal Engine 5. We're going to talk about guidelines for how to use Blueprints and C++ together. I think this is something that people I see constantly in the Reddit forums or in Discords, like when should I use Blueprints and when should I use C++? There's not really a one size fits all answer for that, but we will talk about some guidelines and some good practices, not best practices, good practices. We're going to create 2 templates that you can use to make completed projects. So you can start with these projects and make them into complete games. So this is, similar to how my Blueprints course worked. Wow, my bot is being a jerk. You can send long messages. Come on, bot, don't be a jerk. So we're going to create an endless runner template, and we're going to create an action RPG template. So you'll have 2 templates at the end of this course that you could use. And then we'll create a reusable inventory plugin in the last week that you could use in any game, and we'll try to make this as modular as possible. Man, that bot needs to get some chill, right? Let me read what you wrote. Get that, just, Hey, that's a good. Hey, you know what? Let me do this. I want you to see my face. No, that's kind of weird, right? Let's do this one. I think that's a great idea. All right. Hey, is this better? I don't know. Can you still read that? I think you can still read it, right? All right. So here's some things that I wanted to just like set some ground rules for what this course would not do. I think that's if I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, I think I should tell you what we're not going to do too. So I'm not going to talk about Blueprints a ton. I do have a free Blueprints course on YouTube. It's 100% free. It is 100%, 99% complete. No course is ever complete, right? But you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere. But it's out there. It's on YouTube. You can watch it for free if you want to learn Blueprints. Don't take it from me. You can read the comments. There's a ton of positive feedback about this. One of the things that I wanted to do with this course, I'll plug it a little bit here, but I don't want to talk about it too much, is I want to talk about the why. So I think there's a lot of courses out there that are like, hey, here's how to learn Blueprints. And they just you're just following along step by step. And you get to the end of the course and you're like, I actually have no idea what I'm doing still. And I'm not equipped to make my own game at all. So I learned how to make the game that you made, but I don't know how to make my own game. So the key with this course is to talk a lot more about the why behind things, talk about best practices, talk about how the engine actually works a little bit. It is a beginner course, so we don't get too deep into it, but the hope is that by the end of the course you have kind of some framework to build upon for making a game in Blueprints. So yeah, this is not a Blueprints course. The expectation is that you know a little bit about Blueprints going into it. Yeah. All right. The next thing is we're not going to provide some extensive C++ knowledge. Again, like I said, this is not a C++ course per se. We will learn some basics about C++ in reference to Unreal Engine, but if you want to learn C++, there's plenty of resources out there. I could provide them that you can go and learn C++ on your own, not in relation to Unreal Engine. And I do think this is probably a good idea. If you're going to be working on Unreal Engine, you should probably take a C++ course that is not using Unreal Engine, just so you have a frame of reference of how it works outside of Unreal Engine. I think that really helps you apply the C++ knowledge to Unreal Engine a little bit better. We're not going to create polished games. These are going to be templates. So it's going to be very basic starting point for you to build upon, but we will build all of the kind of systems, the framework for the systems that then you can make for your own game. One of the reasons I also don't want to provide a polished game is because I just don't think it's good to have a million carbon copies of the same game that I want to make out there. So the reason why I try to make things as templates is because I want you to take the principles that you learn and then apply them and make something new and exciting and fun that you can share with the community. And then I'll just talk, like, this is the last slide, but I think that one of the tips for the course is to try to keep a good pace. So I think sometimes people like try to burn through a course in a week, and you're not really giving yourself time to digest things. So this is just true with any course. This is not just my course, but you want to try to like give yourself some time to absorb the knowledge. So this is also why I develop my courses into like weeks, because the idea is that you learn something one week, you give yourself some time to digest it, you maybe like try to apply that knowledge a little bit, build upon it, and then you go to the next week. So yeah, that's the reasoning there. There's also a tip to complete the lessons in order. They build upon each other. So if you try to skip a lesson or you try to start in the middle somewhere, you might miss some critical idea that's in a previous lesson. There's also, I'm going to be providing links to the Unreal Engine documentation. I think it's important that you read that. I also have a Discord that you can join and talk to other peoples that are working through the course or working through other courses and kind of interact with them. Make the projects your own. Again, this is why we're just making templates. And then challenge yourself, always push yourself as hard as you can. So that's that. Let's not talk about that anymore. All right, 31 minutes of just talking. What a boring stream. Man, this guy needs to be fired. All right, so now that I talked about my course, let's make this game. Let's work on this game. I'm gonna show you real quick what I have so far. So it's an endless runner. You can be a dick. It's cool. I don't mind if people are dicks to me. I was in the Navy. I've had a lot of people be dicks to me. So let me hear it. What do you got? What do you got? This bot needs to have some chill, man. You could say dick. Can I tell this bot to shut up? How do I do that? I'll figure it out later. All right. Oh, yeah. No, you're good, man. Hey, so just to be clear, I'm not making the course right now. Like we're not this is a course announcement video. This course is going to be on YouTube. So if you go watch my other YouTube course, these courses are highly curated. I do not make them on a stream. I talk about them on stream. I may do some of the course development on stream, which is what we're going to do for the rest of the stream today. I have my YouTube channel has, I don't know, 1,200 people now. It's not big. I'm not like leading the world in Unreal Engine development courses. It's a pretty small following for now, but they're all nice people. I like having nice people. I also have a Discord that has about 50, 60 people in it now. That are, it's pretty active. People are pretty engaged in there. I'm actually pretty proud of it. I originally wasn't going to do a Discord because I just feel like, it's muddying the waters, and there's already like so many game dev Discords out there. It's like, why just add another one, But people just kept asking. They're like, dude, you got to make a Discord. And I was like, I don't know, man. Here's some other ones. And they're like, no, dude, I want you to have a Discord. So I did it. I was like, whatever, fine. I'll do that. If that's what you guys want, I'll do it. And guess what? I'm so happy I did. Like, honestly. You're good, man. You're good. You did not misunderstand. I did not explain myself clearly. So it's my fault. It's not you. But anyway, I'm so happy I made this Discord because like it's really allowed me to like engage with the people going through the course. It's allowed me to it's allowed the people going through it to share what they're working on and share like the unique things that they've done to their projects. In the last week of the course, if you just want to go watch week 8, lesson 9, you can see I actually like gave some footage of other people's games that they made using my course. And like it's so impressive. I was like, man, people are like really cool, and they like it's so awesome to see like the ideas that people come up with. I think that's something that's so cool about game dev. You could say like, hey, let's make an endless runner, and you'll have like 50 different games that are, I mean, obviously they're all gonna have like the same basics, but like, you know, you gave them some requirements, but yeah. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the Discord, check out the YouTube course. But the point of my courses is they're like heavily curated. This is not like, hey, let's make a game and you're just gonna watch me like mess around in YouTube or mess around in Unreal Engine for like 10 hours. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just not my thing. Yeah, look at that, it did it. My bot is working. I mean, he's kind of a jerk, but I'll get him in shape. I'll tell him that people can swear in my channel and people can make long messages. That's totally fine. But anyway, all right. So this is what we're gonna make in week 1. It's an Endless Runner. Endless Runners aren't my favorite games. My daughter loves them. She has like 8 of them, and they're all the same game, and they all had just like one thing different. But like she just thinks they're the coolest thing, and I'm just like, all right. Like whatever. But I think the idea of starting with an endless runner, it's a pretty basic game to make. Like you can make an endless runner probably in a day if you know have a pretty good grasp on how they should work. And I just wanted to have this as like week 1. Here's a game that's already working. Everyone understands how this game works. You know, if you haven't played an endless runner at this point, like just go download one of the thousands of them that are on like any app store. And so I'll just show you. So I have 2 modes that I'm working on. One of them is procedural, so I'll show that one first. Everything is 100% procedurally generated. So we got this little person running through the level, and these boxes are being spawned in procedurally, and as the game goes on, it'll get more and more complex, basically. Yeah, it starts a little slow. I can read your comments and play this game because it's slow in the beginning. Streamlab, yeah, dude. Streamlab is like, please refrain from making long messages. I might just, all I wanted was just like something that was gonna like give periodic links to the Discord and to the Blueprints course. I didn't want him to like bully people. Like, just leave people alone, man. I'll have to change that. I'll have to fix it. Yeah, you know, there are so many people on YouTube that make courses. I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna use the word courses. I'm gonna use the word content. There's so many people on YouTube that are content creators, and they make these clickbait courses. I'll teach you blueprints in 3 hours. And people click on them, and they think they're gonna learn how to make a game in 3 hours. And unfortunately, you can't learn Unreal Engine in 3 hours. It's so complex. So you can see this game's, now it's like actually getting kind of hard. But yeah, oh, I died. But yeah, there's so many people that are like, I could teach you blueprints in 3 hours, and I'm like, no, you can't. And if you think you can, then you're not going to do it well. And a lot of them, you know, don't show best practices. It's like this is my favorite one. We're going to take an event tick, and I just want you know, here I am in my game mode, and what I want to do is I want to like get some variable from my character. So let's just cast 2-player character. I don't even know what I called my character. Player character. Why didn't it? Oh, BP. And we'll just say get player character. Man, if somebody comes in right now, they're gonna be like, "What are you doing?" I'm showing a bad practice. Yeah, honestly, the Epic has a lot of good stuff. I know that they've tried over the years to like get people more engaged with it. I think my personal problem with it is I actually know like a couple of the people that are creators for Epic. Like I know them, like one of them was a mentor to me. I've talked to a few of them. Some of them are in like the Unreal Slackers channel. So I'm engaged with like some of the people that work for Epic. My problem with the online learning portal is like it's so dry sometimes. Like it's just not that interesting. And I think and also like the technology changes so quickly that I think they're just not able to like churn out the videos fast enough or in any meaningful way. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on their portal. Oh, content examples? Yeah. Those are actually sweet. There's a ton of good stuff in there. Let's change to this. That way you can see a little bit better. You're not just looking at my giant head. But yeah, like I've seen, I'm like not even joking. I've seen this in streamers. Like I've seen people do this. What's the variable that we have? Max health. So this is an example of what you should not do. Anyway. But yeah, there's just a lot of people on YouTube that I think are just trying to make content, get to that elusive, what do you call it? Partner status, where YouTube starts putting pennies into your paycheck. Yeah, I did some research on that too when I started doing YouTube content. I was like, oh, maybe this could be a nice little side gig. It will never pay for itself. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the follow. Yeah, when I was doing my course, I was doing a ton of research on blueprints, and I found like this whole article about how like this type of stuff didn't exist. You literally just had the level blueprint, and it was not called I think it was called a Kismet system. And game developers figured out like, hey, I can make an entire game in here. And so I think it's an Unreal Engine 3. And the people, the developers were like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. And they're like, yeah, but it's fun. Like, I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to program. I just want to make fun games. So that they basically were like, maybe we can make something out of this. So in Unreal Engine 4, they released blueprints. And since then, you know, I think it's much more accessible to people. Oh my God. All right, I got to figure out how to make this bot shut up. He's like super annoying, right? All right. You know, it's funny. It took me like forever just to even like figure out how to turn the bot on. This is how bad I am at this. Like, I'm not even joking. It took me like an hour. Exactly. You're exactly right. There's some of them that actually aren't bad. They make, you know, hey, here's some cool thing I figured out how to do, and I want to show you. And there's some that do a good job of that, honestly. As long as they're not trying to market themselves as like, I'm going to teach you on Unreal Engine, which is what some of the creators do. And I will not name them, but I think everyone knows who I'm talking about. I think I had to like go to. Anyway, let's try to figure it out over here. All right, log in. Yeah, that's so funny because you couldn't be more right. It's like, dude. Where I'll tell you this, man. One of the things about, because I'm using Streamlabs, like, they do not make things easy to find. There we go. Bot. Bot. Link protection. Word protection. Let's turn off word protection. Ooh, I don't know. Is that scary? Paragraph protection. Maybe I'll auto permit. Oh, blacklist. You don't have any blacklisted words. I'm like a little bit afraid to turn this off. Maybe I'll leave that one on. I don't want anybody to say it's something truly offensive. I'm gonna keep the bad word protection on. But I turned off paragraph protection. Don't forget to mod. All right. Maybe I did it right. We'll find out. Caps protection. Why do I need caps protection? People can use caps. Spamming messages with too many symbols. Let's turn that off too. Link protection. I think I'll leave that one on. This is a stream. This is not a game dev stream. This is a stream on how to be a streamer. And you're just gonna watch me learn how to do this one step at a time. I'm gonna leave that open. I think I did it right though. Nice. Permitted term. Oh man. So Twitch stopped you and then I said let's do it. Let's let him say it. And then Streamlabs was still. Yeah. Double protection. Can't have any chat babies. All right. So like I said, this is all procedural. So well, I have a Boolean on here called isProcedural. So I set up in two different ways. So I'll just talk through. Like the character isn't that interesting. I made some custom animations because one of the things is I wanted to make this like a project that I could distribute to people. So I didn't want to have any like third-party content, which is why like when I do things like duck, it looks pretty terrible. Or like dashing between, like that one doesn't look terrible, but it's not great, right? But like this duck, I made that animation and I'm not an animator, so that's why it just looks like, I mean, it doesn't look, like you get it, right? You understand what's going on. But the funny thing is, if you hold duck, he does like this weird like, I got a crap walk or something. It's pretty funny. But yeah, but we can turn off the isProcedural. Anyway, yeah, so we're just doing this run. We got up, down, left, right, typical for a endless runner. But if we turn off isProcedural, we're now not spawning the levels procedurally. We're spawning them. I mean, it's still kind of procedural, but we're not actually creating the floor pieces procedurally. The floor pieces are coming from an array that we can pick from. And at some point it will pick a different one. So we have like a flat one with nothing. We got one with just a box. And then we got one that we got a duck under. So it's like half procedural, this version. And the idea would be, you know, people could choose maybe. So like procedural floor. Well, let's go to the game mode first. Becoming impossible. I don't know what that means. Oh, yeah. I think I know what you mean. In the procedural, there is not... yeah, this is one of the flaws of procedural. I wanted to like work on that a little bit more before I launched the course. But essentially, begin play, we're going to like preload a few levels, and that way like you can't see the levels spawning in the distance. Like it just looks endless. If I turn off the fog, you actually can kind of see it. Let's do that. Actually, I don't think this will work. But anyway, I'm not worried about it right now. But yeah, so we in our game mode, we preload 5 levels, just so that way you can't like see the levels in the distance. There's also like one level that's just in here, so that when you load the game, you're not like standing on the edge of it. Oof, that was annoying. So we preload. Spawn floor just has a few things. We're gonna increment a variable called floor number that starts at -1, so that way the first time this is called, it starts at 0. It's not a level instance, it's just an instance of an actor. And then I have this variable is procedural. We're going to check that. If it is procedural, we're going to spawn floor procedural, which is this one, which is a child of BP floor. All of them are children of BP floor. That way I don't have to like reprogram some of the like the basic functionality. I did this one, set obstruction material. This is what makes it look like a rainbow. Let's see, I'll do this one. This was actually something I was doing for troubleshooting, and then because I wanted to like see how the levels were kind of leading into each other. So you can see here like this yellow one and the green one are like butted right up against each other. So that's the end of one of them and the start of the next one. The problem, like you pointed out with the procedural one, is that there's no, I didn't program yet the protection that it could actually create like an impossible to pass situation. So eventually, like and I tested this, you will play the game long enough that the game will actually, you'll just get to a point where you can no longer like physically go any further. So we got to fix that, obviously, because the high score is always going to be the same. You got to the high score of when the game becomes impossible. But the changing colors was actually a troubleshooting thing, and then I was just like, oh, that's kind of fun. I'll leave it in. But it doesn't become impossible for quite some time just because of the way the function is written. Like this one might, yeah, that was a little hard, but so we spawn procedural floor if the game is procedural. Get floor location is just we're taking floor number, multiplying it by 3,000 units, which is the length of the floor, and then we're spawning the next one. Procedural floor gets obstruction materials, so we have this array of colors, and we're just going to use a modulo and basically get the remainder, and that will give us a different number every time, and it'll cycle through 1 through 6. So yeah, that's fun. Spawn floor does procedural. Oh yeah, sorry, I keep getting set locations array. So what this is doing is getting every possible location that it can spawn an obstacle into, and then putting them into an array. Then we take our floor number that we passed in when we spawned this actor, and we're going to spawn random obstruction, which is going to get a random location, set it to a local variable of random location, get a random obstruction. We could probably clean this up too. Like I could make this a local variable as well in this function probably. That's probably a better way to do it. In fact, let's just do that because I don't like the way that looks. A lot of this was just me trying to get things working. All right. And then we're just going to remove like whatever that location was that we got and set to a local variable. We're going to take that and we're going to remove it from the array so we can't spawn two in the same spot. And that's that. All right. That's like literally the whole game. Like, this is the thing, endless runners are so easy to make that I just thought, what better way to like have someone dive into C++ than making like the most basic game possible. I guess we could have made like tic-tac-toe or something, but it's not as fun, I guess. I think it's harder to demonstrate some of the principles too. Because like I actually had this question, I did a little bit of research, but maybe not enough to like exhaustively do it. But audio analyzer using sound data. That's interesting. I would like to know more about what you mean. But it looks like the bot is no longer telling people not to write a paragraph, so that's good, right? Yeah, a question I had, like, I tried to research it, and I found a couple other people that made tic-tac-toe, but they all pretty much did the same thing, is like, how do you program the win condition for tic-tac-toe? Like, I think the easiest way to do is just hard code. I think there's only 8, right? 3 vertical, 3 horizontal, and then the X in the middle, which is 2. But like if you were trying to make a scalable version of tic-tac-toe, where maybe like, or like think of like Connect 4, right? Connect 4 is essentially the same win condition as tic-tac-toe, just on a bigger scale. So like for that, I think the win condition, you couldn't use like, you couldn't hard code that. I mean, you could obviously, but it would just be annoying and way too much work. File or whatever, use the audio analyzer to turn it Hey, that's actually really cool. I like that idea. I'm gonna steal it. Just kidding. I won't steal it. But you could make it and let me know, man. I would love to see that. That sounds fun. I think the first thing we got to do in this, though, maybe I can do it on this stream. We got 2 hours left, so probably is I want to program it so it can't break itself. So I probably got to fix that in the procedural floor. But yeah, like I think in Connect 4, like if we were to like, let's just do some of these print. This is probably the worst possible way to do it. But like tic-tac-toe is 3 by 3, right? So what if you had a 4 by 4 board like this, and you still wanted to use 3 in a row as your win condition? I think what you'd have to do is like whenever someone selects a square, you would have to like check these 3 and see if they had the same like symbol, I guess you would call it, X or O or blue or red or whatever the color, whatever you wanted to do, unicorn or mermaid. So if someone selected this one, you'd have to check these 3 and see if they had the same symbol, and then if they did, then you would have to check this one, and this one. So you'd probably just need some type of logic to program, like to check through the array, and maybe like each of these has like a like location information, like row and column. But like if someone selects this one, you'd have to check all 9 of these or all 8 of these, and then check. So we checked this one, so then they'd have to check this one, this one. So those would be the only 2 possible win conditions from here. Oh, this one. But yeah. How many positions are there, and how many steps can you do in the gap between a single passage? This is good information to think about. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like one of the things, it's a little bit janky, but in the words of a great game developer, every game is janky. I don't want this one anymore. But the way my duck works, I call it IA down. So my player, you know what's weird in like the latest versions of Unreal Engine? Like whenever you had an actor, it would always have, like whenever you opened it, the viewport was always there by default, and now you have to like go in and open the viewport. Yeah. But this player has 2 collisions, a lower, which is also what prevents it from falling through the ground, and then an upper, which only I think has a overlap, yeah. And this one has pawn collision. So essentially when we duck or IA down, we're taking that upper collision and we're just turning the collision off so that it can allow us to like get underneath something. And then we play the duck montage, new slide. And then after that montage is complete, I just turn the collision back on. So the idea is like if there were 2 ducks, 2 things where you could duck in a row, then you could essentially, let's see if we can get that. You could essentially just like hold this and just always be ducking. Again, we're not making like the world's greatest game here, right? Let's see if I can get underneath this by doing my duck walk. Yeah, see? So you could just like essentially hold this forever. The problem is with the jump, because like when I jump, I can't like immediately jump again, right? So I think like that's a condition that you'd have to think of if you were trying to make the game not impossible. Like you couldn't have 2 jumps in a row. Or if you did have 2 jumps in a row, like this, I could probably get over that one. But like this one, not. Yeah, this is another thing. Like I can jump and dash. Oh, I can make it over 2 jumps in a row, but I can't make it over 3. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Man, I gotta keep an eye on it. So like this is another thing that's annoying me about this is like there's supposed to be this thing in OBS where it's called multi-stream and you can see all the chat, but it doesn't work. It's like not working. It used to work and I used to do it. So like I have this weird setup now. I have 3 monitors, so I'm working on the main monitor in the middle. And on this side is the YouTube, so I'm actually watching myself. And on this side is like the streaming app, Streamlabs. So I can see the Twitch comment over here, which is how I know like you're on Twitch, Pixel Shake TV. And then on this side is the YouTube chat. But because I was doing that crap with Streamlabs earlier, I totally missed that people were trying to talk to me on YouTube. And I don't think they're still here anymore because the only person watching is me on YouTube. So. But yeah, and now at this point, I'm the only person watching, so I'm literally just talking to myself, which is awesome. All right, let's keep working though. The cheating way of work very simply to avoid possibilities would be have spawner trace the potential spawn points and make the gaps big enough. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's good. Like I said, man, as these systems get more complicated, like there's going to be more than one solution, right? So there's never unless it's like something very, very basic, there's never one solution to a problem. But I like the way you think. I think yeah, I like the idea of like your sound-based game because I always loved like those rhythm games. Like they were a lot of fun to me. I remember like way back in the day when Parappa the Rappa came out. Like it was so cool because like I had never played a game like that. Not to my knowledge anyway. It was just so unique and so interesting to me, and I loved it, and I loved the music of it. So like, yeah, having an endless runner that was like based upon like sound rhythm, I think that would be really fun. And you could, yeah, like you said, you could have it like pull in a song from your playlist even. That'd be pretty fun. Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like the way you think. Also, like, this bot is only talking about my Discord, and it should also be talking about When was the last time I talked about the course? Like a while ago. But it's talking about my Discord like way too much. Let's see if I can fix that. Timers. Interval. I just don't know. Oh, is that why? Let's do this. Figured it out. All right. Yeah. Not a game developer, but the design consultant for a few years myself. Sounds kind of like low latency stream. There's like a 10 seconds. Is that? Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. It won't let me change anything while I'm streaming. That's something I'll look at though, right? Right now it's like 10 seconds. Yeah. Lag is a nightmare for you. I just said it right as you posted it. Well, like a 2-second delay, but yeah. Yeah, I definitely will look into that. Let me write a note to myself. I'm gonna write it in here. I'm gonna write it in here. Comment. Learn how to stream you. Noob. Noob. Look at that. All right. But for real though. Enable low latency stream. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. I made a note to myself. You guys ever do this? Oh, I don't want that there though. Cut. Let's put it right here so I see it. Learn how to stream, you noob. Enable low latency streaming. Have you released any games yourself? So a lot, yeah, I have, but not as a developer. So I've released 2. I'm trying to think. I have one game that's on Steam that was released. I was the producer for that project. It was a really unique project where through a Discord, the Discord's still around, but it's not the way it was a couple years ago. It used to be like one of the best game dev Discords out there. I spent like tons of time in there learning, and then once I got to a point where I had learned enough, then I was, you know, mentoring people. And what we did through the Discord is we wanted to create an opportunity for people to have like a Discord-led project. So we tried to the best of our ability to handle it like a real studio project. So we called it like a pseudo studio. The only thing is we didn't have a budget, so we did it, you know, 100% free, 100% based upon like people, you know, donating their time to the project. And the idea was to release the game for free on Steam. I can actually put a link. So the goal was to work on the project for 1 year. So we asked for a 1 year commitment from everyone. The team was like 40 people. I'm gonna talk before I put the link, because if you look at the link, you're gonna stop listening to me. So I'm gonna hype it up, and then when you go to the link, you'll be like, all right, this is all right. It's not so bad. The team was originally 40 people, and at the beginning it was like, man, things were going really well. But like any real studio, you know, we had some challenges. We definitely started hitting some road bumps. And when it's your job and you're getting paid, you're willing to kind of like put up with the road bumps. You're kind of more willing to like be a little bit more tolerant, I guess, because you're like, well, at least I'm getting paid for this. So when you're not getting paid for it, people started being less reliable, not hitting their deadlines, ghosting us altogether. You know, few people were kind of jerks, and we had to kick some people out of the project because they just were not, you know, having that team mindset. But we did it for a year. We worked on this game. Everything was made 100% from scratch. We used Unity for this one, so I was the producer for this project. And yeah, the game is not like super impressive, but when you consider what it was, I still am very proud of it personally. I'll put it on YouTube too for the one person. I think that one person is me. I don't know how this works. Like, if I'm watching my own stream, does that count towards that? But anyway, yeah, we worked on it for a year, and it was a lot of work, but we got it over the finish line. We released it on Steam. People got some really good work for their portfolios done, so that was good. But at the end of the day, like, if you look at it as like a game that you would pay money for, I don't think it's there. There's definitely quite a few bugs. The game is mostly unplayable. Like, you can physically play it, you can move around, you can try some things out. I think the mechanics that we had were really good. I think if we had been able to keep all 40 people on the project, we would have been able to accomplish what we set out to do. But in the end, like, it just kind of started falling apart, and me and the few other people that were trying to hold things together spent most of our time at the end just trying to get people to keep doing the work. And there were some people, like, honestly, I met some really good people on that project that I would work with again in a heartbeat. Like, I've helped them, I've provided recommendations for them. As I see paying gigs come up, I send them their way so that they can, you know, try to get in there. Like, some really awesome people. One of the guys is, like, actually two of the guys are still like very close friends of mine that we talk like almost once a week. We play games together, we work on other game dev projects together. It was a really awesome experience. But if you look at that Steam store link, it's, if I told you a team of 40 people worked on this for a year, you'd be like, nah, dude, you guys did not do that well. But if I tell you it was a bunch of volunteers randomly found each other on a Discord and decided to make a game together, and I think it's good. And then if you go to my itch Jim, there's a game on there called Afterlight. So this was a game that I made for game jam, and we actually won. We actually won an award, so I like to talk about this project too. So we won best peaceful game for this game jam. It is a global game jam. It's one of the bigger game jams every year, so that in itself I think was pretty impressive that we were able to do it. We had a really good team for this one, so I was again the producer for this project. I did some other tasks. You know, on a game jam, I think everyone has to wear multiple hats, so I did do some other tasks on this here and there, but mostly what I was doing is producing. So a lot of times what I do is production, or some, you know, game design, some helping with odds and ends, technical art, things like that. Oh, thank you. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I met some people on there that I've worked with since. And then I am working on one other project. There's actually a trailer for it somewhere. It's not on my YouTube. I think it's on a different YouTube. But we are working on another project together, me and some of the other guys that I met through these various projects. And that one, we took a hiatus for the holiday break. And some of the people were in college, so they asked if we could like start up again in the summer. So it's gonna be like a summer project that we do. We did it last summer. It was 100 days, 100 days during the summer of 2023, 100 days during the summer of 2024. And we're hoping that that's enough to get it over the finish line. But a lot of what I do for Unreal Engine though is consulting. So specifically, like people will come to me and they'll say, hey, I have a really fun idea for a game. I want to like see if it's actually fun or if it's just fun in my head. And I say, if you give me X amount of dollars, I will make your game for you. And so I've done a few of those, but because of the nature of work, a lot of them are under NDA, so I can't share them. And none of those have yet come to fruition. One of them has done, the feedback was pretty good on it when we did some playtesting. So that guy is trying to raise funding so he can make the whole game, but I don't know if I'll help with that. But yeah, that was a long way to answer that question. Have you released any games? This is my problem with streaming. Like, someone asks me a question and I'm just like, you want to hear me monologue for 20 minutes? Because I can do that. I'm pretty good at it. And like, we're not actually doing it. Like, I have done zero stuff except for make this one comment to myself. So if anyone like came into this, they'd be like, what the hell am I watching? This is crazy. But I don't even remember what we were doing. Because I just get on these random tangents. Oh, I think we wanted to make it so the game can't break itself in procedural mode, right? So we are in procedural mode, floor procedural, spawn random obstruction. You know what I kind of want to do is when we spawn these obstructions, I think we want to add those to another array of like what the obstructions are. Maybe. Yeah, I do, because I think if we want to make the game not break itself, we need to be able to like figure out where they are. I did like your idea of doing like a trace though. But yeah, that Fireflies project, it was an organizational nightmare. And as the producer, I was already bald, but I think I became a little bit more bald on that project. Like I said, I met some really cool people, but like trying to get 40 people to work on a project every week for free through Discord, it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. But I'm very proud of what we accomplished still. All right, let me think about this. I like the idea. How many points are there widthways? Yeah, there's 5. So there's 5 possible, you know, because who wants to do 3, right? All these endless runners, they have 3, but I wanted to do 5. I actually think this is one of the flaws of endless runners is like, it's kind of just like, gets really repetitive, I guess. When you just have like three lanes. So I was like, I want to do 5. I want to see if that's more fun or if it just makes it like too complex. So yeah, there's 5 wide. What I don't want though is for it to just become the situation where like, so I think we need to set some rules, right? And while I'm playing this, I'm going to kind of talk through it. So what could we do? One of the rules is we don't want to do, like we can make it over 2 in a row jumping, right? But we can't make it over 3 in a row. Let's see if we can get to 3 in a row. So there should be a rule like we can't do 3 jumps in a row. There should also be a rule. I think we need to fix the ducking behavior too, because that duck walk is like kind of cheating. Like here's my duck walk. For those of you just tuning in and listening to me monologuing, this is the game that we're actually working on. Have the spawner chase the player. Don't think about it as in rows. Think about it as in how far you jump and how far you slide. Yeah, that's a good point. You know what actually might even make this? Because one of the things I'll show you. Where is it? Set obstruction. Spawn random obstruction. Set locations array. Here's where it is. This is the function that we're using to set the possible location. So we probably want to put the logic here and then let this spawn random obstruction. Let this continue to be the same. I think I'm like noticing a flaw in my logic here. You can decouple from speed. Yeah, you know the interesting thing, that's actually interesting because the speed never gets faster, which is I think key to endless runner. So like if we did that, you're right. I think you're actually right. I think we would actually end up in positions where like the speed let's actually just experiment with this. This is a learning stream, right? And Pixel Shake TV and I are gonna make a game on this learning stream. Yeah. You know what I should actually do also, maybe at the end of the stream, is talk about the course again. That way people that have been watching can understand what I'm actually doing here. But like when I spawn a floor, maybe I actually want to increase the player's speed too. Just increment it. Let's experiment with this. Let's have fun with this. Do I have a reference to player already? No. Let's do that. Let's get a reference to our player and save it in our game mode. Okay. And then when we spawn floor, let's get this player. Let's get the movement component. Don't actually change the flow of the game because it just looks faster. That's interesting. That's what I'm saying, man. I like the way you think. is not the way we're gonna do it. Get max. This is not the right one, I think. I think that's the problem. Get character movement. That's why. Max walk speed. Set max walk speed. I just want to try this. Hey, you know, it's funny you say that. Let me, you know what's weird is like Streamlabs is doing something on Twitch that it's not doing on YouTube. Voila, look at that, I did it. Streaming at its finest. So I do have a free Blueprints course on YouTube. It's 100% free. It is a beginner course. So the idea is that you know nothing about Unreal Engine. So if you know a little bit, it's actually not too bad. I found that a lot of courses that are on YouTube and even not on YouTube, like paid courses, don't do a really good job of explaining like why things work. So I think a lot of times the idea is like, hey, I could teach you Unreal Engine in 45 minutes or 3 hours, or, you know, and it's just like, that's not realistic. It's not like no one can learn it that fast. So the Blueprints course is set up in like 8 weeks. So week 1 is like the basics, and then we slowly build up on that over time. The feedback that I've gotten from it has been really, really good. Like, I'm not trying to like sit here and say like I have the best course on the internet. I'll let other people say that, and that's actually what they say. I think the way that I explain things is something that allows people to like grasp the concepts much easier, because I'm trying to get into the why more than the how. Like, I do show the how, like we're gonna make a game. We make 4 games actually over the course of the course, but like it's more about like why things are working and why you should do something one way versus another. And then as the course moves on, we get more and more complex, and by the end of the course you should have a pretty good grasp on Blueprints. People have been asking me, all right, so you made a Blueprints course, so now you should make a C++ course. And that's the point of this stream, is I was announcing my new course, which is going to be called, let's see if I still have it up. I do. Bridging the Gap. Bridging the Gap. The block should be moving, not the player. That's actually interesting. I hadn't considered that actually, but I think it's like more complex. I think I'd have to like redo everything. This is like, yeah, that's actually it. You've given me something to think about. But anyway, after you get done with the Blueprints course, people have been asking me like, well, now I want to learn C++, and there's a lot of C++ courses out there, and I think that they are really good C++ courses. I think there's good C++ Unreal Engine courses, but like there's this, I think, gap between the two where people learn Unreal Engine and they try to get to C++, and it's just like, it's a huge lift. Like, it's a huge gap in learning going from Blueprints to C++. So essentially what the new course that I'm working on, and this is part of this, this Endless Runner that we're making, is it's going to be part of that next course. And the idea with this, man, I really need to learn how to stream. The idea with this is that we're going to help people make that transition from Blueprints to C++. But if you want to learn Blueprints, the course is already out there. It's free. I also have a Discord that is also being linked on Twitch, but not Unreal Engine, but not YouTube. So with the course, I also have a Discord that you can join whether or not you like the course, or you can watch the course without joining the Discord. But in the Discord, a lot of the people that are going through the course have been asking questions. It's really cool. It's allowed me to engage with people and kind of like help solve problems. There's actually been a couple cases where people have found like a mistake in the course and they've been able to tell me through the Discord, so then I can try to like put something in the comments or something for that lesson. But yeah, a lot of good feedback out there. So yeah, try the course. Tell me if you like it. Join the Discord at the very least. If you don't like the course, you could at least join the Discord and talk to some other developers and bounce questions off them. There's actually quite a few people in the Discord that didn't go through the course, and a lot of the questions they ask, I say, you know what, you would know how to do this if you watched my course. So yeah. So another thing with so one of the reasons why I wanted to move the player and not the world, because like I agree with what you're saying. Like, let's play the game and I'll talk about it. So right now, these levels, like the floors, we're calling them BP floor, is being spawned, and this player is like running through the world. And as they're being spawned, like we're just always spawning one more. And the spawning works that like you can't see it. I could show it. I can make it visible. But at the beginning of each floor, there's this collider right here. When we collide with this, we spawn another one, like way in the distance because you can't see it. But also what we do is we destroy the one, not the one that would be here, but the one like that's over here. So like 2 back. So like there's gonna be one here that we just walked through, and the one that's back here, we destroy that one. So we're not just like endlessly spawning these, because eventually you'll crash your game if you can get far enough. So we also want to like destroy the ones we don't need anymore. So that's happening as well, and that behavior is down here, begin overlap box. So this is called box, and we make sure it's the player character, because eventually if you wanted to have like enemies or some other, like, I don't know, maybe there's like something else that's creating obstructions depending on how you want to do your game. Yeah, but it's interesting, the idea of like spawning the world. So the reason I didn't want to do that is because I eventually wanted to have like potentially a situation where these could curve, or even like have ramp up, ramp down, maybe even like one where you have to like take a leap of faith and you jump, and then there's one down there or something. I don't know, just different ideas. Or maybe there was one that like wasn't a floor at all. I don't know, maybe it was like just you had to jump between different things. I don't know, but I think the idea, I like the idea of moving the floor, not the player. I don't know, I'll think about it. It's not a bad idea. It's the beauty of game dev. There's no one way to do it, right? But yeah. What was I talking about? We've actually not done anything in this stream. I've made like 3 nodes. I made a note to myself, learn how to stream, you noob, because apparently there's a huge lag. It's good that we figure these things out when there's like 10 people watching though, right? God, I like just keep losing track of what I was doing. All right, here we are. We wanted to do this. We wanted to experiment with making the game incrementally faster. So let's times this by 1%, 0.01. So we're just gonna get just a little bit faster every time, just a little bit. This probably should not be. This probably should be separated out. This is not good coding practices, but I just want to experiment with it. Oh wow, I'm not moving at all. All right, so I broke that. Max walk speed times 1.01. Oh man. Yeah. You just set it to 0.01. That's why I'm not walking. And yeah, so anyway. Math is hard, man. I just want to see if this actually, like, can we actually start to feel the speed up? Also, there's like another game cheating thing that I noticed. So like we have our duck walk that we would probably want to fix. Here's our little duck walk. But also, because of the way I did the dashing behavior, like dash left, dash right, this is actually getting faster, and it's definitely noticeable. But the dashing, I'll do it right here. So you could just, like keep dashing and like slow the game way down. I mean, obviously this doesn't work as the game gets like way harder, but you could do like this. And like give yourself more time to think. So yeah, that's. Non-linearly. Like as I'm playing, I don't know if you could tell, I don't know if it's laggy, but it definitely feels faster. Like you can definitely experience the speed ramp up. Oh. So yeah, like this should be a function, right? We don't want to just like have stuff like this. Collapse to function, and this is going to be called increase player speed. But like now the name of this function probably isn't right. Like if someone's coming into this, they're gonna see like, all right, so also I just noticed another flaw with this. Yeah, I know. As much as it might look like I'm an idiot, I do know a little bit about how math works. How do you level stream on FBX? I don't understand the question. How do you level stream? Is that supposed to be an FBX? I don't know. But yeah, if someone like sees this function here and they say, oh, spawn floor, like also like because we're doing this 5 times right off the bat, we're automatically starting like we're doing that function 5 times, right? Yeah, because like here. Man, they really need like dark mode on this. So yeah, like if we look, like it's not, like at 1 it's 1.01, but then at 2, where's 2, this one, we're actually 2.02, and then at 3, like, yeah, 4. So it's not like 4, yeah. But anyway. All right. The point isn't like, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this. I understand what you're saying. It's not, it's like 1 point, it's like 101% of 101% of 101%. So like we're not just incrementing 1% every time. We're incrementing like slightly more than 1%. I understand. And because we do it like 5 times right off the bat, then when we start the game, we're actually already going like, we've done it 5 times before the first, like, yeah. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. Let's see here. I think the problem is like now, I don't even know if we want that, right? I'm just gonna take it out for now. I think the first thing, I think what I want to do, if I could solve it in the next hour, is to make it not break the game, because eventually we get to a point where the game breaks because we're spawning on our procedural floor. This becomes, that's just making it pretty. But this one, we want, I think there's like a flaw in my thinking here. As I'm thinking, I need to let's turn the music up a little bit. This is thinking time. All right, now I know what I want to say. So there's a flaw in the way that I'm doing this, in my opinion. Oh man. First of all, like I'm kind of mess everything up because these functions shouldn't be on the floor. They should be on this one. But anyway, we got this set locations array, and essentially what we're doing is we're creating like an array. If we look kind of like this is like the top down, right? And let's just to demonstrate, I'm gonna add a child, and it's gonna be of type wall, right? So these can be spawned, like if I put one of these at 0, 0, right? These can be spawned at locations throughout this world. So essentially what we're doing is we're getting like an array of all the locations that we could spawn one of these. This is minus, right? So there could be like one here. Oh, 29, right? Like all around here, across our 5 channels, right? So what this is doing is it's getting a list of all those locations. Yeah, let me finish my thought, and then I will definitely read your comment. And then after we have all those locations, and then based upon the floor number, which is something we're passing in when we spawn this floor from here. So like this is that right there, right? We're gonna spawn this number of obstructions, and the obstructions is looking at that remaining floor location array, and it's gonna find one randomly, and we're gonna spawn a random obstruction, and then we remove that one from the array so that we can't spawn the same one. This is just making it so we can't spawn this like in the same place twice. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, you're bringing up a lot of points. This is why you don't make games in a vacuum. Everyone needs a team of people to tell them when their ideas are terrible. So we could still end up in a situation where the game is broken. I almost need to like have something else spawning the obstructions. Like this should just be spawning a floor no matter what, and then there should be something else. Maybe that's the better way to do it. You bring up some good points. Maybe there's like, this is just spawning the floors, but then there's another function, like the floors shouldn't be spawning their obstructions because the floors have no like visibility into where the obstructions of the previous floor are. So you could end up with a situation of like 2 walls right up against each other, where like the place where the player could get through is like offset in a way that you actually can't physically navigate it. So we could still break the game. So that's a good point. I want to talk through this because yeah, I got an hour. I could probably fix it. I actually want to try to fix it now. Spawning lines is not full floors. I kind of want. Yeah, I think I want to break this functionality out. It would also mean that we don't need this, like we would always spawn a floor, but the floor would just be like this one, which is just got nothing on it, right? It's just a floor. Right? And it just has this, which is gonna be the trigger to spawn another one down in the distance, right? But then that's triggering that on the game mode down here, right? Spawn floor. It's deleting, it's like destroying a floor back in the back, two away, and then it's spawning a new floor. And then this should just spawn a floor. Like just spawn a floor. So actually, let's just do that. We want to do this. I don't want to do player speed right now because I just want to test that this will actually work. So I just want to spawn a floor. And now we should just have like basic level with no obstructions for the end of time. So you could just run forever, right? This is your new screensaver. Just this person running. This is going to be called Purgatory. Purgatory, the game, coming to the App Store this fall. You just run forever into the fog. Nothing happens. So that like should just do that. But you bring up a good point about the obstructions. Like those should be handled differently. And I think like there is a mode of the game, like if we do the, like if we put this back in, or actually, let's just, yeah, let's do this. Because I do want there to be two different modes of this game, just because it's fun, right? So if we turn off procedural, now we're going to spawn these that we created. And I only created 2 of them. Well, 3 if you count floor. There's one that you have to duck under and one that has 1 obstruction. So this would allow you to like create like prefabricated chunks, and then you just procedurally spawn the chunks. But I think if we're trying to do the is procedural function, then the issue becomes we end up in a situation where we could actually break the game. So then I want to leave that, but like here after this, let's just put a print string for now. We need a new function. It's essentially doing what this is doing. But how the hell do we do that? All right, I need to break this down a little bit because I want it to be done through the game mode, right? I think the flaw is like when the floors are handling, creating their, well, we could just copy this probably, right? We would just need to add like something to the math here based upon the floor number. All right, let's get a very basic version of this working. And so to do that, I also need to clear this only in the beginning. So let's get this first. Actually, Spotlight. Yeah, so I'm not saying this to, if I'm saying something you already know, hey Keys, I'm making a new course. Yeah, let me so I have a blueprints course on YouTube already. It's this one. And it's just blueprints in Unreal Engine. If you've ever used Unreal Engine, this is their blueprints system. So I had that blueprints course, and then people asked me like, hey, could you make one for C++? And so now I'm working on that course. And this is going to be like the first project there. Why is it? Oh, because, yeah. So we're making an endless runner as part of that course. And there's a... we're just kind of working through the logic of like the best way to do it. But what I was saying before is like if you're familiar with Unreal Engine, there's a class called the game mode, and the game mode in a way is kind of like the referee or the class in Unreal Engine that handles the rules of the game. So anytime you're dealing with like game logic itself, that functionality should go on the game mode. So we don't want to put it on the player. The player should just handle things that the player does. Like if you're playing a game, like if we're all playing soccer, it's not the player's responsibility to figure out like when something is a goal or when it isn't. That's the referee's job, right? So the game mode should be handling the spawning logic. But I think when I was making the floor, I was thinking like the floor should handle spawning their own obstructions and the logic there. But now you've brought up a point, like the floors are like don't have any knowledge of each other. So by creating like obstacles procedurally, you could run in a situation where one floor creates an obstacle, and then the next floor creates an obstacle, and those obstacles are like configured in a way that the player can't like get past it. So I think you did bring up a good point that the floor should not be handling that, and I think it should be the game mode. So yeah, I use Unity too. I was originally going to make a Unity course, but my viewers said they wouldn't watch it. So I decided to shift gears. I had this idea, this dream idea when I started making YouTube content was Unreal Engine Blueprints, if you're not a programmer, is probably like the easiest thing you can learn, just because it's visual, and like I think it's easy for people to understand like this is like a flow of logic, and these pins are kind of like connecting the logic through the level, and like this is a branch, so we can make a decision here based upon a Boolean. And Unreal Engine uses C++ for its programming language, and if you have any experience in C++, it is a pain in the butt. It is not user-friendly. It's not beginner-friendly is probably a way to say it. Once you know it, it's not too bad, but like when you're a beginner, it's really, really hard to learn. So my goal was originally to go from Blueprints to Unity, because I think Unity is a little bit easier to grasp for someone that's not like an actual like trained software engineer. But when people told me they wouldn't watch it, I kind of had to shift gears a little bit. So I created, this is, the point of this stream is to announce this project. So my next course is going to be called Bridging the Gap, Blueprints to C++. So there's a huge gap between people that know Blueprints and people that knows, like people that are learning C++. And so my goal is to basically try to bridge that gap. So I'm making this course. The first week of the course is going to be working on a Endless Runner project, which is what I'm working on right now, and it's a little bit collaborative. The viewers, really just one viewer, has been helping me understand flaws in my logic, so it's good. This is great. Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also maybe think we don't need a different class to do the spawning logic if it could just be done through the game mode. I think it's just I think it's just like one way or the other at this point. I also don't think that there's a problem with creating the spawning logic on the player. I mean, it's like, it's everyone has their own way of doing things. I just like to try to put stuff like this in the game mode. It's just, I guess it's a preference at this point. Yeah. Unity's visual scripting system is called Bolt, I think, or something like that. I've never used it, but I think it leaves something to be desired if you're trying to do purely visual scripting. Blueprints is pretty amazing, and in Unreal Engine 5, like, they just keep adding more and more functionality to it. You could theoretically make a game using just Blueprints. So yeah, so I think like when I think of the game mode, another really good analogy is like the Dungeon Master. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, like, they're the one that's kind of like controlling the flow of the game. And when I look at something like spawning obstacles or spawning the floor, I think that's kind of like the flow of the game. So, and also like we already have a game mode, so I think like using your logic of like let's put a spawner in our world, or let's have like the game mode spawn a spawner, even if you wanted to go that route, and then let's have the spawner just handle the spawning behavior. I see an issue with that. There's not an issue with that. If that's the way you wanted to do it, like honestly, I don't think that there's any problem with that. My personal feelings on that are that it's you're just like adding an extra class that doesn't really need to be there when the game mode could just do it. And like there's no reason not to use the game mode, right? I have like a 10-year-old laptop that runs Unreal Engine 5. It doesn't run it well. It gets angry and yells at me. The fans start to spin very quickly. So I try to do mostly like lightweight stuff there. I think this is one of the benefits of Unity. It's just generally more lightweight, and it doesn't require so many resources just to run the engine. Like I have a fairly powerful PC, my desktop, and granted I am using 3 monitors, so that adds to it, and I'm streaming on top of that, so that adds to it. But yeah, I think you probably could run Unreal Engine 5 on most computers. You just got to be careful about what you're doing. Like I wouldn't use this to like do rendering, or I wouldn't use a laptop to use rendering or something, but try it out, check it out, see how it works. But Unity is more lightweight, so if it's a hardware issue, then I would maybe just stick to Unity until you can get something better or more powerful, not better. Yeah. The spawner does not need to move. The spawner, because we're using this procedural floor, it doesn't need to be moving per se. It needs to be tracking like where the location is in the world. So, like this locations array is using like the floor location as a reference. So I think like in order to move this functionality to the game mode, we probably need to do some math to figure out where this is. And then like you can see we're adding it to that vector. So the yellow lines are a vector if you aren't familiar with Unreal Engine, which is just made up of 3 floats. So we're getting this world location, which returns a vector of floor, which is like us. It's this, right? This floor. Yeah. I think you might be right, but I will say also, Unity is not like people I think of Unreal Engine as like this like beastly 3D, like let's make ultra realistic games, and I think people think of Unity more as like, hey, let's make some more casual like phone games, and I don't disagree. Like Unity is better at making mobile like casual games just because of the way it's built. But Unreal Engine can make casual phone games, and Unity can make ultra realistic like 3D games. Like they both can do a lot. I just think Unreal Engine is a little bit better at making ultra realistic 3D phone game or 3D games, and I think Unity is a little bit better at making casual phone games, and that's why people usually choose one or the other. But they can both do both. So I think as long as you keep the scope of your game like fairly small, and you're not using like crazy amounts of assets, like high realistic assets, then your PC is probably fine to run on Unreal Engine. And matter of fact, with Nanite and Lumen, I would argue Unreal Engine can run a ultra realistic high like 3D game probably on your computer better than Unity could, but yeah, just try it, check it out, see what happens. I like both. I don't play sides. People ask like which one's better. They're both awesome. They're both great at doing what they do. There's things that I love about Unreal Engine, and there's things that I love about Unity, and there's likewise there's also things I hate about both. Yeah, the dash does slow you down. That is something I need to kind of figure out, honestly. You know, I actually could probably just do some math. Because for the dash, I'm doing this timeline. Yeah, I've seen the Unrecords video. Yeah, it's neat. I think it's like a marketing thing. I don't necessarily think that it's I would be very interested to see that become a complete game. I think it's basically just like showing off what Unreal Engine can do. I don't think we need this here. Right? Which means like let's see if it still works. Did I just break my game? Nope. Yeah. No, I think like you're bringing up a lot of good points about this game and about like, you know, keeping my logic clean. The dash, like basically how we're doing it is we're getting a starting location. What am I doing? Oh, I'm using a timeline to lerp between where that is. Like this is shouldn't be called new function. It should be called lerp location. So we're just like taking, we have an input of a integer 200 or minus 200 based upon its whether it's left or right. 700 frames per second. That's amazing. You must either be very good at making games or have a very powerful computer, or both. Can Unreal punish? Yes, Unreal Engine can publish games to console. Matter of fact, the new Final Fantasy games are being made in Unreal Engine. Lots of games are being made in Unreal Engine. But like that's the one I usually reference because that's a AAA game made by a AAA company. Like huge game, ultra, you know, awesome graphics, known franchise, 100% Unreal Engine. So yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to see this 700 frames per second game now. You should join my Discord and send me a link, send me a video. Yeah, but now that I'm saying that, let's link that too. Yeah, I do have a Discord. As I said earlier in the stream, like I didn't want to do a Discord originally because I just felt like there was already a lot of game dev Discords out there, but people kept asking for it. So eventually I just made one. And it's actually been really awesome, and I wish I had done it sooner once I did it, because the people, like, it's really cool to engage with people that are like going through the course and like see what they're working on in the course. Like in the second to last video, week 8, lesson 9, I actually show some of the footage from the players' games, which is really cool just to be able to share that and say like, hey, this is what other people have been able to make with this course. I think it's encouraging to people. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking that out. Check out the YouTube course I can link that again for anyone that's just showing up. It's like if you're watching on Twitch, there's a bot that's like linking it every so often, but on YouTube I have to do it manually. So you need to, each console is different. So I would recommend checking out Sony. So the like Steam, Sony, Microsoft, like for Xbox, or like the Microsoft Store, Nintendo, even like the Switch Store. Any of those places are going to have their own requirements for how you pay or how you get paid to put a game up. So I would recommend checking out those ones specifically. The thing is that most of them are agnostic to where the game came from, so they don't really care. The good thing about Unreal Engine, Unity, Godot, any modern game engine for the most part is you're going to tell it what platform you want to launch it to. Like I can show you in Unreal Engine. You say platforms, and then you tell it what platform you want to launch to, and it will just take care of that. So like if I wanted to make an Android version of this project, you just set up the like what do you want it to be, and then you do package. iOS, same thing, you set it to like what you want it to be, package. Android has a few different ones. I think these are probably just different Android versions. Like maybe I would pick this one if I was doing that, because it looks like it has all three of them. Linux, ARM, I don't know Linux, but yeah, you got these two there too. I have no idea what tvOS is. So yeah, but then Windows, and then this is going to create like an exe version of your game that you can distribute. I cover all this in my course as well, but then you would just need to look at like that platform specific and see what their requirements are. Like I know Steam, if you do this Windows version and you package it, then you zip that file and you give Steam the zipped version, and that is all they need. They put it on the store for you. They do all that work for you. So yeah, Unreal Engine, Unity, Godot, all of them can launch to most platforms. It's really up to the platform what the requirements are. So like Steam's actually pretty easy. I launched a game on Steam. It's $100. That's all that it takes to make a Steam page. $100. There's a bunch of stuff, paperwork you got to fill out. You got to give them like your bank account information, all that stuff, so they can give you your money. And then they just take like a percentage of revenue, and then they just give you the rest. So Steam is like that. I know the Epic Game Store, so like if you launch through here, this is very similar. You just set up a page, put whatever you want on there. Yeah. And I do know like Epic is doing a thing where they said they did a thing like a few months ago where your first game that you launch, if you launch it exclusively through the Epic Store, they take 0% of the proceeds. So that's an incentive to use Unreal Engine and launch through the Epic Store. They give you 100% of your money. This is my problem with streaming. You almost like have to consider like if you're going to stream and do game dev that you're not actually going to do any game dev. Like that's one of the rules of game dev streaming. You're just going to like pretty much bullshit the entire time. But yeah, what I was talking about though. So I could actually have another input to this lerp. So like in here, all I'm doing is doing a linear interpolation. Hey, thanks for the sub. I appreciate you. So I'm taking my starting location and then I'm just doing some math. Yeah, sure. Like I said, you just go to their channel. But yes, the question was, do you need to pay for Unreal Engine to upload games to PS4? No. The answer to that question is no. And then B3X kind of added some extra stuff to it. So read that. I think the point I was trying to make is like Unreal Engine is free. They only take money if you make money, but you can use it 100% free. There is a caveat to that, I should say. You should probably just read the user agreement, because there are some situations where you do actually have to pay for it and it's not free. Specifically, like if you work for a company that makes like a certain amount of revenue per year, and you are, again, read the user agreement, because I'm not going to say this in a legally precise way, but there's a caveat that like if I wanted to use Unreal Engine and make like a training video for my company, and my company makes like over a certain amount of money in revenue per year, then you have to pay for a license because you're using it for like non-game dev purposes. But let the lawyers figure that out, right? We're just making fun games. But thanks for adding to that comment, B3X. What are we doing here? Oh yeah, God, I'm like, I lose track of what I'm doing so easily. So this is just like doing some math to like handle the dash. So like dash left, dash right. We can also do it while we're jumping, because I didn't put a check in for that. But if we wanted to like not have the dash actually slow us down, because like as I was saying, like if you just keep doing this, you actually slow the progression through the level down, because we're lerping like in a directly one way or the other, in the right, using the right vector. So we could probably like, if we were getting really, really picky about this, we could probably like add some math here using like the player speed, and maybe like add a little bit to the I guess it'd be the X vector, right? Or 90 degrees off from the right vector, I guess, or the forward vector. Get the forward vector, take the movement speed, add a tiny bit, and then add that to this vector as well. I don't care that much. This is just a template project. If you wanted to do that for your game, then go for it. But good points everyone's bringing. You can still get this done. I don't know if I can at this point, man. I think I just need to focus. Yeah, we were trying to do something here where we handle the spawning of the obstructions. So let's try to do it. Let's see if we can do this in 40 minutes. I think I want to copy all of this though. I don't know if I'm going to use it yet, but I'm just going to throw it in here as a new function. I do know that it's going to be like a little bit different. Like first of all, this is not a variable. We do have floor number. We also are not going to be using this. I don't want that. We want to use this somehow. 1 second. Here I am. Sorry. Had to do some family stuff real quick. Alright. Man, that lag is pretty long, huh? I think I need to take the advice of and learn that and do this. Learn how to stream, you noob. Enable low latency streaming. I made this note to myself so I wouldn't forget to not be a noob. Alright. So we have floor number. I don't know. Like we could do this, get all actors of class. Do floor. I don't want to do this, but for each. Just do this for now. Just in the interest of trying to get something done in a 3-hour stream. This is not going to be the final product though. Let's put this at the beginning. This is not, I don't want to leave it like this. I just want to get it working. So if basically we're going to get whatever the floor number our game mode is currently on. I know there's a better way to do this, but I just want to get something accomplished today. And if it is, let's set this to a local variable called current floor. Current meaning like the latest one, like the newest one. So let's maybe newest floor is a better way to say that. And then we can do this here. Nope. Is this type get floor. All right. I just don't know if I want to do it this way. I'm making something real wonky here. So essentially what happened, it was like I was doing, so we actually have spawn floor. We had a system set up where we were procedurally spawning the floors, but a point was brought up, a very good point, that like we could get in a situation where we actually break the game. So then I decided, well, let's move some functionality off the floor to the game mode. But now I think this also isn't gonna work. It's like every time I start something, I realize the flaw in my logic. Let's just do some. Let's get random int, no, random int in range. I'm just gonna try something real quick. -7 to 7. Let's see if this works. What the hell, right? Nope. Oh, you know why? Because we're not actually calling this anywhere. Spawn floor. New function. There we go. Now it's working. But we're only spawning one for each floor. So every time we spawn a floor, we're gonna put a random obstruction in some random location in that floor. So it's working. It's step one, right? The problem now is we're not actually destroying these. Like if we go here, like look at all these walls, but like we never destroyed the original. So we're just gonna keep making them. So we need to make some functionality, and we haven't died yet. We need to make some functionality to actually keep track of what floor those are on and destroy those as well. Spawner is honestly the simplest way to do this, and spawning along the line. I think I'm essentially doing the same thing though. Like I'm doing that already. I think I could simplify this a little bit. Like I think that there's probably a middle ground between what you're saying and what I'm doing. Like I still think I would want to like have it be done by the game mode. But I think what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is like as I'm moving through the level, there's like a spawner that's moving with me that's handling the creation of the obstructions. But I just don't know how that's like any better than doing it on the game mode. Like I would say that like if I was gonna do anything, maybe an obstruction, like right here I'm just doing a wall, but maybe maybe instead of like trying to spawn them in each floor, like here we do spawn like a line of them at a time, and like there's 14 lines in each floor. Like if we look at procedural, because this creates 15 times 5, what is that? 75. So there's 75 possible locations that we could spawn. So instead of that, there would just be 15 possible locations, but we would spawn them like in a row, and then an obstruction is like instead of an obstruction just being like a wall or a I'm calling them like wall obstruction. Obstruction is like the shorter one that you have to jump over, and then under is the one you have to like duck under. So maybe instead of like trying to spawn these as individual pieces, an obstruction is like a row of some mixture of these, and then you can only spawn like 15 possible obstructions or something. So there's always like a gap or a possible way to get through. You still could run into a place where you could like have to jump and then jump again, but maybe instead of doing 15, like instead of there being like 15, I can lessen this down to like 5, and then that way there's always like the ability to like get to the next one before that one starts. We could try that. I guess we could start by like creating hurdle. Oh, so you're saying like the spawner, like the spawner's like way up. Oh, why you gotta do that to me, man? You're saying like the spawner's like way up here. Yeah, I don't know. Like the spawner's in the distance somewhere, like doing those checks. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say. You can do the logic on the game mode. The spawner is just for points to trace from and to location to spawn at. It's really just a reference point. Hurdle. Yeah, this could be a hurdle. BP hurdle. So then I could create like, actually let's save all. I could create like a new actor called BP. I don't want to call it obstruction because we already had that, and I don't know if I want to break a reference or something. So let's call it obstruction spawner. Yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering now if like I just need to rethink everything. The spawner is just a player that has no obstructions, but is copying the player's rules, can dash, jump, and duck. Doing the course in front of you with no obstructions, and it just spawns stuff where it has not gone. Even if it's the hardest, there will be a path. That's like super interesting. I don't know, man. I like it. I like it. I just like, so there would be an AI running it. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I'm not going to say it's interesting. It's not interesting. I'm very interested in what you like, your logic, and I would love to see it like more drawn out on paper. I think what I'm trying to do is something a little bit different. But I like it. I do. Especially like when you think about it as like the terms of like a rhythm game. Excuse me. Just random inputs. Yeah. Like in terms of like a rhythm game where it's like making sure that things are done in rhythm, like I would love this. And like that's one of the flaws right now with the player dash is like it's actually not, you could get out of rhythm. So it'd be really cool if like the jump or the dash or the duck always happened in rhythm, and then you could just be like, you know, bopping along. But like with the way that those things currently work, you actually would like get out of rhythm with the game. So I do need to fix that if we're going to go that route. But I think what I want is just something that like is just, now that we're spawning like the walls and the floor, I want to be creating like something similar that's spawning some obstructions in here procedurally. So as the player's playing, you know, they have something to dash. But I think the key is like it needs to not break itself, right? That's ultimately the key. Maybe this just needs to be like less. Maybe I just need to do like -5 to 5. Let's try this. Oh, that's actually not going to work either. So it needs to be 15. It needs to be, it added up to 3,000. So this is now 11. So it can't be 11. It could be -2 to 2, and then this would be what's 3,600? Like, let's consider these two walls were next to each other, right? These two right here. I wish I could pause it. And one was on one side and one was on the other. Could you physically get there fast enough? Like, I don't think you could. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. You just need to do some math to figure out the player speed and then just add it to the x-axis. But you can also set the lerp. Like here, I can actually set the lerp speed so that as the player is moving faster, the lerp happens a little bit quicker too. Definitely some work to do in this course for sure. I like the idea of there being like something way ahead in the future, like trying to like set up the game. That's pretty fun. It could almost like even be like, so like in an endless runner, like I think of the one that my daughter plays the most is called Subway Surfers, and like you're running from a cop, and like eventually the cop will catch up to you, and like if you fall enough. But there's also another one where it's like a game of tag, and you're trying to like catch someone like way in the future, like someone that's like running ahead of you. You're trying to like catch up to them, and if you can go long enough without like hitting something and like getting power-ups, eventually you'll like catch up to them and you can tag them. I like the idea of it being like a situation where like maybe in your like your scenario, it's like the AI, it actually is an AI, and it's like dropping, it's like throwing obstructions out, and if you can go long enough, you'll actually catch it. So it's not an endless runner in that way. It's like a, you know, you're trying to catch the guy or the person or the thing, whatever. And that could actually be fun because then like that thing, whatever it is the thing like creating those obstructions. So Yeah. No, I think I don't. I would love to see your implementation of it, because I don't think what you're saying is like complex per se. I think it's just not like what I'm trying to do per se. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I don't think what I'm trying to do is difficult. I just think with any procedural generated content, like it's like any algorithm. You have to think of the edge cases, and you have to think of like what could break this algorithm. And just in this stream alone, we found a few that broke my existing algorithm. So we tried to make a new algorithm, and then I just got in this huge mess where I'm not. I'm just making more problems for myself. Sorry, I'm getting some texts here. All right. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, I don't understand what I'm trying to do. I just know that what I was doing wasn't working, so I tried to fix it, and then I think I just made a mess of it. What I'm trying to do though is like I've got the start of it here, right? But I don't think I have enough time to finish it because I just talk way too much. This is just the problem with me streaming is I end up talking like the whole time and I get nothing done. But it's fun. I like doing it. But I probably should end the last 10 minutes talking about the stream again, about the course. Maybe I'll go to 11, which is when I'm supposed to end the stream. And then I will end the stream by talking about the course. But essentially, like, I think I have what I want here. This just gives a little bit more space so that we're not like spawning them so close to each other. But like wall, I want this to be, what did we call it? Obstruction spawner. But then like this would make a row of them, right? And it would only make a row in a way that like is traversable. So it would always like skip one, I guess. Or it could like make like, it would always make sure that there's either like an over, an under, or a blank. At least one. In some mixture of like walls and obstructions. But like I think by like limiting this to only 5 locations, so 25 locations, we kind of like, and even this, like I don't want this. I want, yeah, because this is only going to do 1 per floor. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I just made these floors like way too big too. Maybe I just need to make it like skinnier, like 1/5 of this size. And then just have each one of them only have like one configuration. I don't know. Yeah, it's not taking into consideration what's next, right? But I think by like making it spawn less of them, there's more chance to like traverse between the next one. Because one thing I also want to do when like in the course is like spawning like power-ups and like, I don't know, all these games usually have like some type of coin system or something. And I want to have those in there too. and I want that to be done procedurally as well. And I just feel like I'm making a super complex system for something that I just think there's like a lot of edge cases. So I almost need to like rethink it. Shifts by. Yeah, it's true. You know what I should do is I should do some trouble. Let's spend the last 10 minutes figuring out how many of these babies we could squeeze in. So let's grab one of these for loops. And this is going to be the input of this. Nope, that broke it. Why? Why is that breaking it though? How come when I don't have that? Oh, that's also broken. It's not that. Why did this break? Oh, it's not wall. It's not broken. I broke it. Okay. Yeah, so see. So like they are like a little bit better spaced out now. Like, but you couldn't physically get from one side of that to the other. Like, if we look at the spacing between these, eventually it'll happen. But like, if I had to get from here, I guess I physically could. Not once I fix it though. It is kind of doing what I want it to do though. We're just doing it through the game mode now instead. We don't have the pretty colors anymore. But it's working. We're now spawning them through the game mode. So we could just move all that functionality over and then try to fix it. But like, yeah, I think like if we look at this one, like I can easily make that, but if it was like 2 or 3, I don't think I could. Like the spacing's better this way, but now I've removed like some of the logic that was checking like, can we physically, like, are we still good? you sidestep one within the gap. Yeah, so it's like I think we're getting there, right? But like we're now able to I'm just doing walls because I wanted to like the sidestepping between 5 is going to be the hardest, but like what, so what are we doing here? I mean, we could just get rid of ducking and jumping, right? We would solve the problem of the duck walk. Here's my duck walk. So I can sidestep this, right? But if it was like more than that, I don't think I could. Also, I think like here's one where it did 3. I don't think I've seen that. So like there it did 1. I think my spacing is still like a little bit off. I think I want to swap these two. I think I want this one here, and I think I want this one here. Let's see how that looks. Looks mostly the same, but like I still think that spacing is like too close, right? There's no way we could make it between there. Like there's 3 in a row. Yeah, this is less, for some reason this is less interesting. So what am I doing here? All right. So this is just finding the floor. I need to fix this anyway, but that's just to get this variable. So we're getting this variable and we're adding to it. And we're getting a for loop. So for each of these, like this is right now. The only thing is I think I want to remove, like I want, if I was doing this, like let's just add a child. Like let's say this was a wall, right? And then we duplicated this. I think I want it. Is that 200? 400. I just want to demonstrate obstruction. What is that? Right into a wall. All right, let's see if we can dash that. Nope, too quick. All right. All right. So like, see that spacing? That's like too close, right? Let's just do this, so I don't have to dash that every time. So like, now this is purgatory. I should make these all office cubicles. This is the game. Just get out of the office before they give you more work to do. But there's just no end. But like, if we look at this, like the reason I want to do this is see the spacing. Like if we look at the spacing of this, there's no way I can get from one side to the other in that space. So this is where I need to like figure out my math a little bit better. figure out the spacing. So this is 5. So what if he did 3? And this was 1,000. That's a little bit better. So like if every time there was like a different variation of jumps and ducks, like you could get to this side, like, right? You could do that. That could work. And sometimes it would just be a blank, you know, give yourself some rest. And then this obstruction spawner would only have 5 locations, and it would just have some rules on how to like set up, how to spawn. Like it couldn't spawn all 5 walls, right? It could spawn. So maybe what it does is it spawns like 2. So there's 5 possible locations, right? It spawns like 2 randomly, like a hurdle. What should we call the duck one? I just called it BP under. Looks more realistic. Yeah. It might still be a little bit too tight, but I think we're only going to figure that out once we start like getting a little bit further. I think it's a better system than what we had. I think it'll be easier to find like game-breaking situations this way for sure. I'm just gonna call that under for now. But like, we could have these obstruction spawners spawn like an array of 5 items randomly, and maybe sometimes it just spawns 0, you know, but it spawns them. It would handle making sure that there's always going to be a possibility that it could get through. So maybe we say like it spawns 2 of them. Let me think. BP limbo, BP duck walk. This duck walk. Yeah, I think the best way to solve that is just to like do it the same way I'm doing it with the jump. Like you can't double jump, so I put some logic there to prevent double jumping. I think we need to do the same thing with ducking. Like this is the problem, is like I could just hold it and duck walk endlessly, but then it does finish it. Like it, when I let go, it finishes it. So there is one like on the player, like this one is called moving, and I do a check here to see that I'm not already moving, so I could just do that real quick. Get moving, branch. Oh, let's keep this clean. They changed something in one of these versions where you used to just be able to write not, and it was the not bool, but now you have to write not b to get the not bool, and it just annoys me. It just annoys me. Like sometimes they just change some little thing, and I'm just like, come on, man. Like I was using that. That'll fix the duck walk. I might put the duck walk back in though, just for fun. So yeah. Is it going with the music on your side? How is the jump different? think it's because it's like it's written in the code. Like this has a thing to check that bool. I could probably do this. Yeah, that works. Fixed it. All right, let's call this BP Limbo. Hurdle and Limbo. Things we're gonna get real good at. Hey, but that's 11, so I that's when I said I would end the stream. So for the few of you that are still watching, combined 7 people, 8 if you count me. Yeah, thanks for showing up, watching me mess around in Blueprints for a few hours. I wanna just plug the new course one more time again at the end, so you don't have to stay for this, but if you want to hear about the new course, I'm going to talk about it. So the new course, those of you that have been on my YouTube for a while, I have a Blueprints course that's 100% free on Unreal Engine, on YouTube. It's 100% free YouTube course, and it teaches Blueprints. So this is for anyone that is not familiar with Blueprints, not familiar with Unreal Engine, even not familiar with game dev. We start with the very basics. We start at the very beginning of how the engine works and how to open things, how to get things working. It's an 8-week course, so it's paced out in a way that kind of allows you to absorb the information each week before moving on to the next week. So that course is already out. It's already on YouTube. Yeah, check it out. Check if you haven't already. But when I finished that course, I got a lot of requests to make a C++ course. So Unreal Engine is written in C++. It uses C++ for the engine code, but it's also recommended that you use C++ when making games as well. I found personally that there's a huge gap if you're not a traditionally trained developer or software engineer. To go from Blueprints to C++ is a really hard for a lot of people. I think this is where a lot of people kind of like get discouraged and maybe like give up on game dev. So the point of this course is basically just to kind of try to bridge that gap between the two. So it's going to be a 4-week course. It's going to be again on YouTube, 100% free. And the first week we're doing Introduction to C++. The key here is we're not going to start with C++. We're going to start with a Blueprints project that is made 100% in Blueprints, and we're going to convert it to a C++ project. So this is in this stream, this is what we've been working on. This is going to be an endless runner. So I'm making this game right now. It's a procedurally generated game in Unreal Engine, and basically we're going to start with this as a Blueprints project, and we're going to make it into a C++ project. In week 2, we're going to start our second project. So the second project is going to be an action RPG game similar to Fable. For those of you that are a little bit older like me, some of the newer people maybe would be familiar with a game like Witcher, or one of those types of games. Action RPG. We want fun, exciting combat, fun gameplay, a little bit of exploration. I guess Skyrim could technically be put in that category. But we also want to include some of those elements of player progression, leveling systems, skill tree systems, inventory systems, things like that. So we're going to start in week 2. We're going to create the foundation for that project, and we're going to build on that a little bit. In week 3, we're going to learn how to use those two together. So we've already learned Blueprints, we're learning C++. How do we get them to work together to maximize the use of the game engine? And then the last week, we're just going to end out, we're going to end out by creating a standalone plugin for an inventory system. This is going to be an inventory system that you could take and put into any number of projects down the road. So just a quick rundown of what's going to be in each week. So as I said, this one's going to be an introduction. We're going to talk about C++. We're going to learn the very basics of working in C++. Then we're going to create our our first C++ project, starting with C++. This is where a lot of people kind of hit snags. So I'll talk through some of those snags and help you work through it. We're going to start by creating some basic character stuff, basic enemy stuff, defining our game loop. We're going to talk a little bit about level streaming so we can have some level exploration without having too much of an impact on performance of our game. We're going to do some more procedural generated content. We're going to create a procedural dungeon in this week that we could have be a little bit different every time to allow for repeatability. And then we'll wrap up that week. In week 3, we'll start building out some of our systems in our game, and this is where we're going to learn how to get those two programming languages to kind of rely on each other. So we're going to make a leveling system, an ability system, a skill tree component. We're going to make an inventory component. We're going to make a ranged weapon so the player can use both. And then in week 4, we are going to create our inventory plugin, which would be a standalone plugin. And one of the things with inventory is it's a little bit different for each game. So we want to make this to be as modular as possible so people can make adjustments to it as required. So, wow. And I'll end with just a couple more slides. So what we will do in this course, we are going to discuss some C++ core principles in Unreal Engine 5. So we're going to learn how to use C++ in Unreal Engine 5, but this is not a C++ course. C++ is a much broader topic, but we will talk about some of those foundations. Hey, thanks for the love. Appreciate it. We're going to provide some guidelines on how to use blueprints and C++ together. We're going to create a template for 2 UE5 projects, so the Endless Runner and the Action RPG, like I said, and then we'll end it by creating a reusable inventory plugin. What we're not going to do is provide a basics blueprints training. So the understanding is when you start this course, you understand blueprints. If you don't understand blueprints, watch my other course. It's a good place to start, and then you should be able to segue right into this course. We're not going to provide extensive C++ knowledge. Like I said, it's way too broad of a topic. I'm not going to teach you how to make a C++ only project. There's plenty of other resources out there that'll teach you how to do that. We're going to be learning how to use C++ specifically in Unreal Engine. And then the last one is we are not going to create a polished game or polished games. These are going to be templates that you can use for future projects. They'll both be easily something you could scale into a full-scale project, but in 4 weeks we just don't have the time to cover everything. So the idea is to learn the fundamentals of how to get C++ to work together with blueprints, have those foundations for games that then you can continue to develop. Just some course tips. Keep a good pace, keep up the lessons, read the documentation, join my Discord if you haven't already, make the projects your own and challenge yourself. So that's that. That is me talking for over 3 hours. I did that in 11 minutes this time. Last time it took 30 minutes to get through all of that. I talked way too long in the beginning. So if you enjoyed what I did today, please feel free to follow, subscribe, whatever you're watching on calls it. Join the Discord if you haven't already. I'll end the stream by putting that link out there one more time. If you were watching on Twitch, it was annoying you constantly, so you should have already seen it. If you want to check out that free YouTube course, there's the link for that as well. And I will be definitely, doing these streams every so often to keep updates on the course. Once I have enough content on the course to put out, I will start putting that out as well on YouTube. I think I made a mistake last time with my course. I started posting the videos a little bit too early, got people amped, and then slowed down a little bit on the posts, so I got a little bit backed up there. But what I want to do this time, it's a 4-week course. I'd like to at least have the first 2 weeks finished, and then I'll post those, and then I'll post week 3 and week 4 when I get that content rounded out. So yeah, if you liked, like I said, please follow, subscribe, join the Discord, watch the videos. It's the best thing you can do to help me out is watch those videos. The more people that watch them, the more it spreads the word about the channel, the more the YouTube gods will recommend my content to others, and hopefully we can build a better community together. So again, I'll just end by saying that, and thank you so much for watching.